Hello, everyone. A lovely good evening to all of you. My name is Israel Michael, and you're welcome to the LockTech 5 Days Free Online Bootcamp Training. And today is Ethical Hacking Day 5. And so, in day one, we understood the ethical hacking methodologies. We understood what ethical hacking is all about. We also understood a couple of things about different ethical hacking phases. In day two, we focused more on reconnaissance and scanning. Then in day three, we went further in the scanning phase. We were able to carry out a vulnerability scan. And in fact, yesterday we saw that it is possible to even eavesdrop on information that is traveling through the protocol called FTP. And we did a recommendation that if a company must use a file transfer protocol of today or in today's world, what you have to do is to use the SFTP, that is SSH FTP. Okay, FTP simply means file transfer protocol. All right, so today we are going on to the next phase in ethical hacking, and that is called the gaining access phase. So here we are going to carry out a real hack on a system, and the drum is rolling and brrr, we are good to go. So I would like you to sit tight, and I would love to know if you can hear me clearly and if you can see me clearly. And also, I would love to know where you are watching from. Please leave on the comment section your um your location, the actual city or state where you are streaming from, and we'll be glad to connect with you. Don't forget, this is the LockTech 5 Days Free Online Bootcamp Training, and we're streaming live from Port Harcourt. So going on tonight, I'll be going over to my screen. All right. I believe we can all hear me now. So I would love to know if you can hear me before I go back to my lab. So I'm waiting for your comments. Please on the comment section. Please verify if you can hear me clearly. Can we all hear me clearly? Can we all hear me? If you can hear me, please drop a comment that you can hear me clearly. Otherwise, send me the negative that you can't hear me. I'm waiting for our comments. Okay, so I think you can all hear me now. That's fine. All right, so I'm going back to my lab right now at the moment. So we are switching over. So um, before I go on with this, can you all still hear me? Let me be sure you can all hear me. So one more check. Can you all hear me? I'm sending a hello. You can all hear me. That's fine. Thank you very much. All right, so going on, what I have to do is simply ping um, my target machine. Like I was saying, maybe I think you all missed some part of the discussion. So I was saying that today we are trying to gain access. So we are actually attacking a live machine. In this case, my FTP server right here, right now. And we are going to use a tool called Metasploit Framework. So Metasploit Framework is a tool that helps us to carry out a hack, okay, to carry out a pen test. So with Metasploit Framework, we are going to use things like exploits and payloads to actually break through a target system. So in this case, one more time, I'm going to ping my target machine. So ping 10.0.2.7. And of course, the machine is responding to me. One more thing I'm going to do in this case or in this regard is, of course, let's just play one more time with the nmap tool. So I'll use the nmap tool one more time to, of course, check if port 21 is vulnerable. And if it is vulnerable, we are going to use the Metasploit framework, which is a tool in my Kali, to actually attack this server and break through it without the password. Okay, so nmap double dash scripts. This is the nmap script for vulnerability assessment or scanning. So I'm going to say double dash script equals vuln and dash p and the port number and 10.0.2.7. And at the moment, it's scanning the machine, particularly port 21, looking for a vulnerability. And once it discovers it, it reports back to me on the screen. So just a moment, and here we have our result. So port 21 is vulnerable. We saw the same thing yesterday. All right, so going on, we are now going to actually carry out the gaining access. So we've done step one, which is to gather reconnaissance, gather intelligence. Now, step two is that we've done our scanning and we've now discovered the vulnerability. Now, step three, we are going to carry out our hacking, exploitation. And this technique in ethical hacking, by the way, ethical hacking, you have several techniques because in the gaining access phase, what you have to do right now is to employ a technique to gain access. So in this case, I'm employing just one technique. There are a lot of techniques to gain access into a system. There are techniques whereby you have to create a virus, different kind of techniques, okay? But in this case, we are carrying out a technique called port exploitation. So in this case, we have port 21 that is vulnerable, and now we are going to actually exploit it. To exploit means to abuse, to take advantage of, okay? Because port 21 has a weakness, and that weakness in port 21, we are going to take an advantage of it. So going on, I'll scroll down and maybe clear my screen for your vivid view on my screen. And to navigate into the Metasploit framework, the command is msf console. So this command takes us into the environment where you can now actually carry out your hack. So this is the hacker's environment. It's more like a room in my machine where I have a lot of guns, a lot of, different things that I can use to actually shoot my target. So in this case, we are entering into our maybe our arsenal, okay, where we have a lot of weaponry there. So the Metasploit Framework console is going to load up. It may take a while, maybe a couple of minutes. So right now it is coming up, and we are navigating where we can actually carry out our hack. Don't forget that we are carrying out a hacking technique called port exploitation. And port exploitation only works on ports that have vulnerabilities. And when it comes to a port vulnerability, it would definitely mean that that particular port is running with a protocol or a service that is out of date, which means that is, breakable, pregnable, and hackable, stuff like that. So right now, our framework is open, and as you can see, I have a prompt here saying MSF. MSF simply means Metasploit Framework. Okay, so it's a framework developed by a company called Rapid7, and by the way, it's an open source project for ethical hackers, pen testers, name them. So it is used as an environment where you can deploy several tools, to carry out pen testing, security auditing, and what have you. So in this case, we are going to employ a particular tool in here, and it's called exploits. So in the Metasploit framework, particularly the version 6.4.99 version, I have up to 2,572 exploits. Now, what are exploits? Exploits are basically piece of codes, okay, that are used, okay, by malicious hackers or by a hacker generally to break through the vulnerability of a device, to gain access into a device. So exploits, they give us access. And on the other hand, we are going to add to this exploit what we call a payload. So in ethical hacking, we have exploits on one hand, and on the other hand, we have payload. Don't forget that exploit is simply a piece of code used by a hacker to gain access into a computer device. So let's say I've seen a loophole in a computer device, and now I need to break in. I would need an exploit. That exploit would help me to break in. But now, even if I've broken into the device, I would also need a payload. So an exploit will not do me any good unless a payload is binded to it. What is a payload then? A payload is also a piece of code, but this time it gives us interactivity with a target device, meaning that it's a piece of code that allows a hacker to remotely control another system or a remote system. So I can be here in Port Harcourt and I can be remotely controlling or commanding another machine, maybe in the UK, using an exploit and a payload. So how does it work? The exploit helps us to push the payload into the system. Consider this like a gun. You have a gun, the metal object, and then you have the bullet. What does a gun do? And what does the bullet do? The bullet is what does the harm. Okay, the bullet is the payload in this case, while whereas on the other hand, the gun is the exploit. So the gun launches the payload into the system. So the exploit is the means by which we can now inject our payload into a target system, and that would give us the ability to control the system remotely and look at this secretly, stealthily. Okay, so we can control a system without detection using our exploit and our payload. So don't forget that these are exploit and payload, they work hand in hand. None of them can work separately. Okay, for every exploit there is a payload, for every payload there is an exploit. So if the payload can give you interactivity, you would need an exploit to launch the payload into the system that you want to breach. Also, if you have an exploit, what you use is the exploit if there is nothing to shoot out. So they both work hand in hand. Now, in this case, we are going to be using exploits and a payload to compromise my FTP server. Okay, and don't forget that this technique is called port exploitation. Okay, so we are in the gaining access phase of the ethical hacking methodology. So right now, I'm going to pick up an exploit using a command called use. Now, use is a Metasploit command to simply select a tool inside of it. So right now we are in the Metasploit framework. And if I want to use a particular tool, I have to begin with a command called use. So question, use what? I would give in space, and then I will call up the name of the tool I want to use. Like I said, in this particular method I'm using right now, there are up to 2,572 exploits in my Metasploit framework right now. That means I have thousands of exploits in my machine. So I have to choose the actual one I want to use at the moment. So right now I'm going to use exploits, and so exploit forward slash, or let me show you how to look for an exploit. Okay, let me make it more clear. So we can use a command called search. Okay, so now search is a command to look for something in the Metasploit framework. So right now I need to find an exploit. But question, this exploit, what kind of exploit am I looking for? Don't forget that exploits, they are used to gain access on account of a vulnerability. So right now, I'm going to type in, excuse me, the actual vulnerability that we discovered. And what was the vulnerability? The vulnerability, if you scroll upwards, okay, I think I cleared my screen. The vulnerability is that version of FTP that we're able to use, VSFTPD 2.3.4. Okay, so I'm going to say, okay, search for any exploit that relates to VSFTPD 2.3.4. All right, so it's going to go through the database of this framework and look for any exploit that has in its name VSFTPD 2.3.4. Hit enter, and right now I just have one exploit that fits this version of FTP, and the version in this case is called VSFTPD 234 backdoor. Okay, so right now we have an exploit here. As you can see, its name, it has an index number, its name, disclosure date, rank of performance check, and description. So we're going to be using these exploits. Okay, so I can simply say, okay, like I said, to use an exploit, what's the command? Command is use. Don't forget to look for an exploit. The command is search, then the name you're looking for. But to use a particular one, the command is use, and then the actual, the actual name of the exploit. So in this case, I don't want to type this long information over here. I can simply use the index number of these exploits. So I can say use and number 0. All right, and I'll hit enter. And right now I am inside the exploit I want to use at the moment. As you can see, I am inside exploit Unix FTP VSFTP 234 backdoor. So right now we are going to configure these exploits. Don't forget that an exploit is a piece of code. It's more like a script, okay, that somebody has already written, and we can use it to carry out our own stuff. So if somebody has already written this script, our job is to edit this script, okay, to work for us in our context tonight. So right now, I'm going to check what we need to edit for this payload, or I mean this exploit, to work for us in our context tonight. And our target tonight is my FTP server. So the command to check for every editable or requirement in the given script for our Metasploit framework, particularly this exploit, the command is show options. So the command show options now is going to show us all the required fields we are going to configure. If I hit enter, right now, as you can see, there is a table shown to us. Don't forget, we wrote show options. And show options now shows me a table. Okay, so let's understand the table. We have name over here, which can refer to maybe the name of a field. Then we have current setting, and then we have required, and then we have description. So right now, among all these configurations or among all these requirements or all these fields in our script, only two are required, and that is arrow hosts and arrow ports. Okay, so we are going to ignore C hosts, C ports, and proxies because they are not required. We can do with or without them. So in this case, arrow host, what does it mean? Arrow host simply means remote host or remote target, meaning the target you want to break into, your potential victim. All right. And then arrow port now is the vulnerable port that you want to exploit, which is on your target system. In this case, our arrow host is going to be my FTP server, and our arrow port is going to be the vulnerable port 21, which we use the nmap scan to discover. Okay, so now what is the current setting we are going to do on arrow host? We are simply going to put in the IP address of our arrow host. And by the way, the arrow port is accurate by default, so we are only going to configure the arrow host. Don't forget that the arrow port that we are actually investigating on our FTP server is port 21, which is the FTP port. So I'm only going to set up the arrow host information, and in this way now our exploit, our gun now has, a target, kind of. Okay, so now going on, I'm going to say the command. Okay, type in the command that would configure our arrow host so that our exploits can know the target we are focusing on this time. So I will say set. That's the command. Now, to carry out a configuration on a script in the Metasploit framework, the command is set. So set space, and this time I would say arrow host, and then another space, and then type in the IP address of this target machine. So in this case, I would say 10.0.2.7, which is the IP address of my FTP server. That black screen I showed you guys. Okay, it's IP, that's this. So I will hit enter, and that is done. If I say show options again, okay, you will see that our host is now filled up. Okay, we've typed in the target IP. Okay, so now the next thing now we're going to do is one more thing. Don't forget, every exploit needs a payload, right? So I will use the command to say to show or to look for the compatible payload that can work with these particular exploits. So I would say show payloads. And right now, we can see that we only have one payload that matches exploit Unix FTP vs FTPD 234 backdoor. And that is payload CMD Unix interact. So how do we employ this payload into our exploit? Same thing too. The command is set. Don't forget. Then I would say payload, and instead of me calling in the full name of this payload, I can simply call in the index number by simply typing 0. So set payload 0, enter. And now this payload has now been attached to my exploit. Now we are getting ready for the next thing. Now we have set our payload. The next thing now is to shoot the gun. The gun now has a bullet inside it. Our bullet is payload CMD Unix interact. This guy over here. And our gun is exploit Unix FTP vs FTPD 234 backdoor. So we have our gun. Our gun is this red guy, and our bullet is this green guy. So it's a red-green combo, kind of. You get the gist. So now we're going to pull on and launch our attack. So what do? I would simply run the command called exploit. Now, in Metasploit framework, exploit is the command to shoot. It's more like saying fire in the military. Okay, so if I just type exploit, it means I am launching the attack, I am enforcing, or I'm shooting the gun. Okay, if I hit exploit and enter, as you can see, it is loading, and at the moment, whoops, we have found a shell. A shell simply means a command line connection. So right now, a command shell session 1 has opened between, look at this, 10.02.6, which is my Kali's IP, and then 10.027, which is my Metasploitable machines IP, my FTP server. So my Kali now has access to my Meta machine. And all I have to do is run commands, and I'll be able to see whatever is in the server. For example, if I just type ls, I can see all folders in the server. But right now, this interface doesn't really look convincing. It doesn't look neat. So what are we going to do? We can do more than this. Now we have a kind of shell. This shell is a command line interface, of course, but it doesn't look interactive. The feel is not that enjoyable. Look at this. I typed ls and it just gave me folders like this. It looks so dumb, okay? So we're going to make it look more interesting. We're going to upgrade our connection to this machine. Stay with me. So going on, next thing I'm going to do is a command called background. Now, background simply means I want to minimize this connection and do something else. I don't want to come out of this shell I have secured between my Kali and my FTP server. I want to background it. I want to minimize it, but not end it. I want to keep it outside and it is still running, and I can always come back to it anytime. So the command is background. And background is going to keep this shell on the background, okay? Like minimize it. And I will say, yes, minimize, please. And right now, it has been minimized, okay? If I type the command called sessions, I would be able to see that I have a session here, okay? And it is minimized. And the session type is called shell CMD Unix. So it's an old kind of connection. It's not that interactive and it has limitations. So right now we're going to upgrade our shell to something bigger, something more interactive, something more enjoyable. So look at this. Oops, sorry. So look at this right now. I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to say sessions dash U, which means to upgrade a session. Then space number 1, enter. And right now it is upgrading the session, as you can see, upgrading session ID 1. And it has started a TCP handler on my Kali machine, and boom, a Metasploit session this time, not a shell CMD, but a Metasploit session has now opened. And if I run the command sessions to see my available sessions, enter, I have 2, session 1 and 2, the old session and the new session. Beautiful. So now I can say, okay, let me go into the new one instead of the old one. I will say sessions this time, dash I. Dash I means interact, okay? Go into something. And then I'll call number 2, and boom, I'm in. If I do who, if I just simply say host name, okay, let me use the who am I command. Let me see if it will work here. Okay, let's use the command help. And help will show us all possible commands that we can use, all right, in this environment. So I'm scrolling upwards just to get some information over here. And we're going to use a command called maybe, let's say, okay, let's use ls. ls can work here. It can work here, okay. mkdir can work here, which means to make a directory. As you can see, we can create a folder over here. We can also remove folders. That's crazy. we can delete things in my FTP server. That's terrible. We can also upload a file or a folder into my server. This is complete control. All right. We can also run ifconfig, which displays all the interface. That is interesting. Okay. If I say ls, it shows me all the folders inside my server. If I type in pwd, where am I? I'm inside roots. So I can say, okay, cd into home, pwd, where am I? I'm now in home. If I say, okay, cd into the admins folder, which is msf admin, the admin user, and I can ls, and I can see all the folders in the admin and including confidential, which was a folder we made in our last class. I can cd into confidential, and I can make something, maybe use a command called touch, okay, to make a file, maybe something like this, or let's mkdir instead. So I can make a folder called tap, and if I ls into this, we say that there's a folder called tap inside confidential. I can come out of confidential, ls, and as you can see, confidential is there. If I ls confidential, I can see what is inside confidential. Tap is inside confidential. And look at this, I can even delete confidential. Just a moment. Let me delete confidential. But first, I want to just remove, you know, what I made inside there first. So look at this. I'm going to remove confidential by using a command called arrow mdir, which means to take off a folder, and then confidential. This is incredible. Right now, I'm in someone's server. That's crazy. And if I ls again, confidential is no more here. Terrible, right? It's no more here. Look at this. I can even delete this folder called vulnerable. But let's see what and what could be inside vulnerable. Vulnerable, and vulnerable has a lot of, a lot of stuff here. And I can simply remove vulnerable in the blink of an eye. Okay, let me use, although some commands here may be terrible because this is an old server anyways. So let me just simply go into vulnerable the old school way and cd into, let me just take off one more thing. I can take off Samba. Okay, Samba ls, and there are several things here. I can just simply rom asterisk dot asterisk or rom3 this deps. Okay, some things here may not really work because it's an old server anyways, so some commands are not really matching Linux commands anyways, but that's fine. I can make something here. Actually, let me make a file or a folder. I can just simply make a file called, or a folder called virus, and if I ls, virus folder is nice. So right now I can simply control this server, and I don't want to go further than this because I don't want to spoil my FTP server. Okay, I'm still using it anyway. So I'm going to come out, and how do we exit from this session? That's the question. The command is simply called quit. Okay, as you can see, I have left that session. I am now back into my Metasploit. So right now, that will be all for tonight. We're going to continue again tomorrow, and tomorrow is going to be a moment of revision, how to actually, build your ethical hacking career. So I would like you all to stay tuned tomorrow by 7 p.m. My name is Israel Michael. And please remember that on the Google Classroom, we are going to post your task so that you can have your certificate. Thank you for watching. We'll see you again tomorrow, 7 p.m. Good night.